I understand that the worst thing a wife can do to a husband is make him choose between her or his mom. I understand that this is a very tough decision, especially if the husband loves his mom a lot, and it's something you never want to do to your partner as a loving wife. But what if the mom is an unbearable demon who hates you and your children? What if you feel like you would rather dive into boiling lava than spend a second with her? Is that not a good enough reason? That's what I'm here today to ask. See, as a person who's kind of religious, I genuinely want to make this work, but I can't anymore, and my husband says I'm wrong in all of this. So I'll explain my situation to you guys. And you tell me if I'm wrong in this or if my husband's just delusional. My name is Sam, short for Samantha, 34, and I live with my husband Eric, my beautiful daughter Ella, and, well, my not-so-loving mother-in-law Nina. Believe it or not, but until a few months ago, I was living a happy life with my family because my mother-in-law had not moved in yet. Now, you guys are probably wondering, what is her problem with me? Well, honestly, I don't fully know myself. She and my father-in-law both have always had a problem with me, even before we got married. I'm an orphan who was raised by my aunt who passed away when I was 23, so I've been close to nothing. I have no family, really. I still have a few around the country, but they don't really care about me, so I don't really care about them. But even though I only had kind of one parent, I was raised pretty well. My aunt did her best and honestly never gave me the chance to complain. Of course, I never would have anyways, because without her I would have probably lived on the streets. So suddenly, after she passed, I felt like I was lost. I felt like I lost everything that made me happy. Eric was the only guy who made me genuinely happy after that. See, he made me want to have a family again, and after we had dated for just a few months, I was sure that he was the one for me. Now, Eric has always been a great guy and a good husband, and even though he has his problems, I do really love him. The only problem I had with him was his family and how they treated me. Other people in his family actually liked me a lot, but the main ones hated me, and by that I mean his parents. At first, I believed that they were just not really fond of me, as they were probably expecting him to get serious with someone else or just hadn't expected a girl like me to show up. But soon I learned that they just outright didn't like me for some reason. I met them for the first time during a wedding, as Eric had taken me as a date. There, they treated me well, but a year later, when I went in as a serious girlfriend, they were really strict. They asked all sorts of uncomfortable questions and at one point even asked my body count and how many boyfriends I've had. When I refused to answer, obviously the more personal ones, they get mad. I tried my best to bond with them, and when I told my story of how my aunt raised me, I could see that they were getting warmer to me. After that dinner, I genuinely believed that they would slowly start liking me, but that never happened. Eric swore up and down that they had no reason to dislike me and had no idea why they were doing this. Now, as I already mentioned, I still fully don't know why they did what they did or why they hate me, but I do have a few ideas, so even after trying and failing several times to get them to like me, I refused to give up and tried my best to have a good relationship with them. So, one of the reasons I used to believe they hated me was that I was poor. I don't have a good job at the time, and obviously Eric made a lot, so our relationship could have looked like one where I was chasing money. But after a few years, I was proven wrong, as even after I started making as much as my husband, the hate continued. The next was suggested to me by Eric's cousin, who said that the parents really wanted Eric to marry his ex-girlfriend, who ended up betraying them and cheating on Eric, so they were just straight up talking out of anger on me. You know, that's still believable, but I soon chose to believe that they just hated me for reasons only they knew. And believe me, I wish they had tried to hide this fact, but as soon as Eric proposed, they fully showed everyone that they did not want him to get married to me. They fully refused to accept me as their daughter-in-law. Eric was put in a really bad position, but he ended up choosing me and we got married, and they did not even attend the wedding and were so mad that he chose me, that they cut off contact with us. Several months later, they contacted Eric, but chose only to, well, talk to him, and I rarely saw them. Not that I complained, because I really enjoyed not being judged. So a year later, I was pregnant, and they still had not accepted me. I actually believed that after I had a child, they would let go of this silly thing and I would have a big family, but they refused. So I decided to make a family of my own. Soon I gave birth to my beautiful daughter, and for the first time after getting married, they came to visit me. But it turns out their hate was generational. Maybe they would have been happy with a son, but they didn't really like my daughter much. That's what I thought then, but now I know why they hated my daughter. And that's going to come up shortly, guys. So, as you can see, my in-laws had genuinely no interest in having a relationship with me and my child. So at one point, I had to stop trying. I had kind of stopped a while ago, but I thought that my daughter would change things, and when she did not, I gave up again. My husband understood this and never forced both sides to meet each other. Even though it made me sad to think that my in-laws hated me, I was still happy with my own life. But about 6 months ago, my father-in-law passed away. It changed everything. I decided to forget it all and went to console my mother-in-law. She was pretty devastated, and for the first time in my life, she was a bit kind to me. For the first time, it felt like she was my family. Eric was devastated, as he's always been very attached to his family and chose to live a few weeks with his mom. But then, a few months later, he told me that mother-in-law wanted to move in with us, and I had to make a very, very tough decision. Now, we didn't know this, but it turns out father-in-law had many loans, one which, he had taken against his house. Since he passed away, the person he took the money from was taking the home, and mother-in-law had nowhere to go. My husband knew that this meant, and begged me to agree to let her stay with us, since not only she had nowhere to go, but she also had no one else to look to, and was very lonely and depressed. Now, I gave this a lot of thought, but there was no way I could just have rejected this. She was in a bad position, and my husband would not have taken no for an answer either. But at this point, I actually wanted her to move in because I believed that if she stayed with us, she would change. But now I've realized that middle-aged American women can never change. So after I gave the green flag, she happily moved in, and for a week things were great. But it turns out that she was just taking a week to warm up to my home, because as soon as the next day arrived, she turned into the same monster that did not like me one bit. She started behaving the same way she used to before father-in-law passed away. And the worst part was that my husband said nothing. Yeah, that's bad, right? Well, it gets worse. She kept treating me like I was some servant who lived here to only do her work, and every time I fought back, she would just play the victim. I mean, it sounds bad, but I was used to it, and, I don't know, took it to just maintain peace because fighting back only created more problems for me. But slowly, I started seeing that her hate knew no boundary. See, for me, all of this was kinda normal, but I never noticed that my daughter was suffering too. One day, I found her screaming at my daughter to not touch her and that she was not her grandma. It really made me mad seeing her hate my daughter, so I got into a huge argument with her, and obviously my husband blamed me and asked me to calm down. At this point, I was losing it, and when I asked him what he was doing, he told me that his mother was grieving and that I was the one making things worse for him. We had a huge fight about this, and I decided to let it go for now. But then yesterday, we had another argument. And then she called my daughter, a B word. Yeah, and it's not a good one. And called me a cheating witch at the same time right in front of my husband. I would have slapped her if my husband would not have gotten in the middle of it, and then I demanded that she gets the hell out of here. But my husband was refusing it. He didn't even say a word to her and took her to her room. Basically, I had a lot of problems getting pregnant, but then one day I got pregnant out of nowhere, so my in-laws believed that I cheated. They even tried to convince my husband, and he didn't tell me anything. That is why she hates my daughter. And even after everything she did, my husband is taking her side. Can you believe it? I've talked to him several times, but he refuses to throw his mom out. Now he's upset that I'm trying to make him kick his mother out and making me look like the bad guy here. So, you guys tell me. Am I the wrong one here, or does my mother-in-law not deserve a roof over her head, especially in my home? What's up, everybody? We have a mother-in-law nightmare story on our hands. Mr. Reddito here, and if you guys are new to the channel, if you enjoy these sort of stories, I drop a story like this every single day, so make sure you subscribe. Let's check out 2 comments before we hop into the first update. Comment number 1 comes from Jamie Sun. OP. I fully get what you're going through right now. You don't deserve any of this. You helped your mother-in-law and have tried your entire marriage to make up with her, but she's still acting like this. And not just to you, but your daughter, who is 6 years old? How can someone be cruel to a 6-year-old? I mean, I don't understand. If she assumes you cheated, the daughter has nothing to do with it. Why blame her? I don't care if it's harsh and she has nowhere to go, but you should definitely kick her out because she's taking this way too far, and nobody deserves to go through this in their own home. Comment number 2 from Blackjack. OP, the mom is not the problem here, it's your husband. Your mother-in-law is behaving badly, and I do not doubt that. But she's behaving exactly as you would expect someone like her to. She's always been like this to you and does not change, still. The only person who has changed is the husband, and he's not defending you guys. You should make it crystal clear to him that it's either you and your daughter, or him and his mother, and make him choose. What I don't understand is why he's doing this to you. Guys, let me know which comment you're rocking with the most. Here is the first update. It's been 2 weeks after update number 1. Hey guys, it's been 2 weeks since my last update, and let me just tell you in advance that you're not going to believe what's happening. Yes, it's somehow gotten worse than it was before, and believe me, I'm the most shocked. So after my last update, I genuinely believed that there would not be anything worse than my mother-in-law calling my child, well, fatherless, and accusing me of cheating on my husband doing nothing. But I was severely wrong. I guess I should continue from where I left off. So after my last update, I refused to speak to my husband since he was not listening to me anyways. He kept telling me that his mom had made a mistake because she was hurting and that she did not hate me and our daughter. Normally, I would always work towards diffusing the situation, but I had enough of her already. I didn't want to spend a single second looking at a person who believed that I cheated, and that the child was not my husband's. I made it clear to him that his mom was not a person I could live with or let my child near anymore, and I reminded him that she had not apologized to me for her behavior. The funny thing is that he kept telling me that I was being insensitive by not understanding her condition, and I just decided to stop talking to him. I couldn't believe that this was my husband and that he was supporting his mother over his kid and me. I think I forgot to mention that her last stunt made my daughter cry, and he still did not blame her for anything. You know, the thing is, even though I'm surprised I should have known this would happen, that is because my husband's a bit of a mama's boy and has always listened to her a lot more than me. But because he lived with me, she could not manipulate him much. But after his dad died, she grabbed a hold of him and never let go. This became worse after she moved in with us. I kind of knew he would not support me if things went south with mother-in-law, but I had no idea that things would be this bad and he would not even help us. But the funny thing is, I had no idea what was about to happen because compared to it, our last fight looked like a joke. So after my last update, I constantly started recording all my interactions with her just in case I had to show anyone what was going on in our home. Now, ever since our fight, mother-in-law's not spoken to me much, and I think that's because my husband did ask her to tone down the hate or something, but she did occasionally butt heads with me. Yesterday, I heard screaming, so I ran with my camera on. And as soon as I reached our living room, all I saw was her slapping my daughter really hard. I genuinely lost it at that point, and I was so mad that I stopped thinking. I went to her, pushed my mother-in-law, and slapped her as hard as I could, and she fell down. As I turned to check on my crying daughter, she stood up and pushed me, causing me to hit the wall with my head. My husband then rushed, and obviously mother-in-law started crying in pain, even though I was the one who was bleeding. Our daughter was crying scared out of her mind, but my husband did not even give her a look and tended to my mother-in-law first. It was only after she settled down that he took a look at us. He then proceeded to give me, what did you do? The look, and asked me to shut up when I started explaining. So I tended to my wounds and left the house with my daughter and went to live with one of my friends for a day. I came back the next day, and since my husband looked calm enough, I explained to him what happened and told him that this time she had gone way too far. Now, there was no way I was going to stay with her or leave my daughter here. I even had the recording of her slapping my daughter, but he told me he didn't need to see it. Well, he then accused me of attacking his old grieving mother and said that she was just punishing our daughter for doing something bad. He said that she had everything right, and she had the right to do this. I told him, well, even we don't hit her, and he said that's our choice. He then told me that I had done enough and I needed to stop. Well, he actually gave me an absolute warning and told me that if I did not stop messing with his mom or asking him to throw her out, he was going to throw me out. Can you believe it? I'm honestly so mad right now that I don't know what I'm going to do. Update number 2. Hey guys, it's been a month and finally I have something good to tell you guys, so I'll jump right in. After my husband threatened to throw me out and possibly even our daughter, it really made me mad. I did not say anything to him because at the time my brain stopped working, but pretty much immediately I decided that I had enough and was leaving him. But I wasn't just going to do that because I wanted my mother-in-law to suffer first. So I started thinking of ways I could make her suffer, but I could not come up with anything good. Also, in a few days, I started rethinking about leaving my husband because I still didn't want to blame him for all of this. I think I was so used to my mother-in-law being the problem that I sort of became blind to the fact that my husband was doing this by choice. Then one night I spoke to him for the heart and asked him why he was doing this to me and his daughter. I literally had tears in my eyes, and I genuinely loved him, but I guess I made a massive mistake marrying him. Because he told me that he cared about us, but his mother needed him more right now, and I was always out to get her. He said that I've always been doing what was, trying to make my life worse for her, and he wasn't going to take it anymore. So his first warning still stood, and if I caused her any problems, he was going to throw me out without regret. This is more or less sealing the deal about what I was going to do. I knew right at that moment that the guy I loved was not there anymore. My mother-in-law had manipulated me so much, and I mean so much, that he literally lost his love for me and his child. So after that, I got to planning again. I had enough money to move out, but like I mentioned before, I was going to leave without making my mother-in-law suffer. And after weeks of thinking, I finally have a plan. Well, I had a plan in pretty much a day, but I found some information that made me add a few things to the plan, and it went from good to amazing. So I could forgive my mother-in-law for everything, even calling me a cheating witch because I was more upset at my husband for not defending me than her calling me that. But what I could not forgive her for was calling my child a, fatherless person and hitting her. Well, mostly I'd say for hitting her, and if you have a good memory, you know that I have the recording of it. Now, if you put 2 and 2 together, you'll know my first plan. I was just going to collect a bit more evidence, which I was already doing, and get her arrested for being abusive to both me and my child. But for some reason, I felt like digging into this debt. She had left the house for just to check. So I made one of my friends who lived close by do some digging and try to find out some stuff about it. Yesterday, he called me, and I could not believe what he found. So it turns out father-in-law did not have any debt, and he also had no reason to have debt. But since he was, dead, we accepted it. Mother-in-law was the one with the debt and collected all of it due to her gambling habit. After father-in-law passed away, she had no way of paying such a huge amount. So she left her house and hid with us. Yes, she owes them a lot more money. So now I'm stuck trying to decide if I should get her arrested or let the debt collectors know where she lives. Maybe I should do both. Honestly, I probably will, and no, I will not be telling my husband anything. He's going to go down with the mom that he's willing to lose his family for. Update number 3. It's been over a month, and this is going to be hopefully my final update. So before I even start, I want to say that I'm not happy with everything that happened. Some people were suggesting that I be happy doing this to my mother-in-law and leaving my husband. You have to understand that leaving him was the last thing I wanted to do in my entire life. After so long, I had finally had a happy family, that one thing I had wished for since I was a kid. Do you really think I wanted to let it go? No, but I was left with no choice. I guess I should continue. As I mentioned in my last update, I started by collecting a bit of evidence, but I needed much more because I had the worst stuff already. Plus, my daughter was already scared of her at this point, so I didn't want to subject her to more trauma. So, after getting a bit of evidence, I tell my husband that I was leaving him since he wanted to happily stay with his mom. and he let me leave believing I was bluffing. Actually, I'd already rented an apartment and we moved in, and then I filed a complaint with all the evidence and got mother-in-law arrested. Eric called me several times, but before I picked up, he was so mad with what I've done, he asked me to undo everything or he would genuinely leave us, and I told him he was free to go. Then he tried to threaten me, and when it didn't work, he told me I was going to regret everything. But what he didn't know was that I wasn't done yet. That was just phase 1. So with the help of the same friend who discovered the truth, I let it be known that my mother-in-law had been hiding here for so long. And as soon as the news reached the debt collector's ears, they jumped to Eric's house. Well, it did not remain his house for a very long time because they took it. After they learned he was their son, they decided that Eric would be paying for his mom's debt since mother-in-law was never going to pay them back. She did not have anything else, so they took Eric's house as collateral and gave him a month to pay the amount back or he would lose the house and still owe them money. Now, Eric has never been the type of guy who saves money. He likes to live in the moment, and I was the one who did the saving, and fortunately, I did most of it on my own account. So he had close to no savings and no home now. He spoke with his mom, and obviously she was no help because she was running from them. Now, I didn't expect this, but it made him so desperate that he came crawling back to me for help. He asked all of my friends about me, and one of them felt bad and gave an address. He came running, and the first thing he did was apologize for everything he's done. He said that he had made a grave mistake, and it took him getting kicked out of his own house to realize the gravity. He asked me for help and tried his best to convince me to help him. He learned well from his mother because it was actually tempting, but I told him no. It was kind of too little too late. For these past few months, I've been begging him to save our family, and it took my daughter getting slapped in front of me to do it myself. Even though it hurts, I was kind of done with him, and that is what I told him. Then he started crying and kept begging me to help him. He only left when I threatened to call the police and get him arrested too. I have not seen him since, but he's tried to contact me. I don't want anything to do with him. It's not been that long, but me and my daughter are happy in our new home. And even though the situation is not what I expected, I know that we'll stay happy. And someday I will move on. I'm working on divorcing Eric now, and sometimes I can't help but think how happy we are. But I guess not everything works out in life.